and welcome everyone to Dome Talk. It's good to see everybody on this very blustery Minnesota day. We are here. We've got a handful of questions for you, so I think we'll go ahead and get going. So, for all of you who haven't been here before, my name is Carrie Miller, and I'll be moderating today and posting links in the chat. So keep your eye on the chat. Sometimes it helps to have a Word document or some other thing open. If you want to copy those links as I post them, you're welcome to do that. You can also ask questions in the chat, and if we have time, we'll get to those. We'll focus on all the questions that came in before the meeting, and then we'll do our best to get to those chat questions. So stick with us and we'll do our best. We try to stick to 1 hour, but we typically go over, so we completely understand if you need to leave early. If you haven't been here before, let me give you a short intro about who we are. Natural Spaces Domes is owned and operated by Dennis Johnson and Tessa Hill. Located in North Branch, Minnesota, we have a dome complex consisting of an office dome, 3 model dome homes, a screen porch dome, 2 workshop domes, and a mini dome, which is our option for small living spaces. As always, we invite you to visit us for in-person tours. Natural Spaces domes are special because they're designed to be easy to build, beautiful, healthy, energy-efficient living spaces while still providing you the best housing value around. Our staff consists of 14 people with Dennis, Tessa, and Derek leading the organization. Dennis is the dome guru and has decades of experience as a designer, contractor, and builder. Having designed over 1,200 domes worldwide, he knows what works and what doesn't. His patented dome connector system is the best available, and he sees to it that someone is there to help you with every step of your dome dream. Next, we have our project manager, Derek Miller. He joined the NSD team several years ago, bringing with him a lifetime of construction experience. He handles a wide variety of responsibilities, from collaborating with Dennis on projects and client contact to helping the shops refine building techniques. While he is deeply familiar with the dome construction process from the ground up, he's also our video guy, filming and creating the educational videos, virtual classes, and tours. And Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Aaron Moran. I joined the NSD team a little over a year ago. I came to Dome School, actually, is my first time here after I was trying to look into building my own dome house. And after coming to Dome School and meeting all the great people and all the people who really just love domes, it's such a great community. And I wanted to come here and learn how to make dome dreams happen. So yeah, I've been having a great time here at Natural Spaces Domes.
Thank you so much. And a great plug for Dome School, which will be coming up in June this year. And stay tuned, keep watch on our website for the dome tours that'll happen later in the year. We're not doing one in spring as of right now, but we will be doing them later in the year. So just keep tuning back for that. If you're on our email list, just keep an eye on your email and we'll get you that information. All right. Are we ready to jump into our questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we have 2 questions that are very similar, essentially looking at the dome designing process. So the first question is from Vi from Canada, who wants to know more about the designing process. They have a floor plan that's tentative, but wants to know what is included in designing and planning. Is it just the floor plan, or does it include building instruction as well? And the second half is very similar. What does it take to do it and how is it done? And can the dome be on stilts? So just kind of a general overview of the designing process and what's included with all of our consultations. You're muted.
Let me unmute. There we go. I was going to say that the designing process and as far as how it's built are kind of 2 separate things. They often go together, of course, but the design process really is just trying to get your ideas interpreted into like the floor plan for the dome system or multiple domes, whatever it is your goal is. And so really it's just you and the designer communicating back and forth on what's possible and different practicalities of different ideas that are shared, and coming up and fleshing out kind of your vision of what you want your home to look like. And then you know, the learning process on building the dome itself, that's where we offer like dome schools and construction manuals, because that's a pretty in-depth process, and some people just scratch the surface of it, and some people try to do the entire project on their own. So it really kind of depends on where your level of knowledge is, and do you plan on hiring contractors for a lot of stuff, or do you want to sub it out? But as far as the dome design, also, you will get a floor plan, but you also get construction drawings. So we have two different levels of drawings. One's called preliminary drawings, where we really kind of focus on the design aspect of the home. And then once the design is approved, then we move into construction drawings, which are more getting into the nuts and bolts, literally, so to say, for the contractors to be able to provide bids for jobs. And it really specs out the size of the footer, where posts need to be located to support the upper floor, more of the technical aspect of the structure. So that is part of it. And typically your builders will be able to interpret those plans and do what they need to do. But we also do offer schooling and other educational materials if you want to do a lot of it yourself. As far as the stilts go, do you want to grab that one, Aaron, or you got a good picture of the one on stilts, maybe?
Yeah.
Um,
What I wanted to add on the sort of like that how to build aspect of it is as you can see here, like here's a good example of one. You can see that it's color coded. You can see the paint on the outside of these struts here, and the same paint is on the inside as well. So what a lot of people don't realize is that you can follow essentially a color coded process for putting it all together. And I think that really helps simplifies things. And you can also see here that the bottom walls, they are, delivered to you with a number on them to make sure that you know which walls are going where. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you to put together your dome, whether you're trying to do it yourself or whether you have someone trying to do it for you. Now, as far as the stilts go, see, I did have a picture here for the stilts. Let me just find it real quick. But there's a few different domes we've had that have like some very large stilts, for example. This one, I believe it's like 16 or I think it's 20 feet up. So you can definitely do it. Of course, those stilts like need to go into the ground, almost just as far, right? It's something like 15 or 16 feet, uh, I believe. So, I mean, so long as you can get those in the ground, then you can have very large stilts. And then there's another one here actually that had um, smaller stilts here. Derek, while I'm putting that picture, do you have anything to add onto?
um, Yeah, just like foundations in particular, rather as piers like this or stilts, or it's slab on grade, or here's a home that's half um, kind of on a flat, the back half of it's kind of on a flat part of the hill, and then as the hill came down, they put the front half up on pier like a pier system. So almost anything you would do with a conventional house, you would do or would have the option to do with a dome home as well. So it's really, you know, pretty flexible. There's nothing really restrictive about the fact that it's a dome, or maybe a certain foundation style you've seen on another conventional house would not work. Pretty much all of them translate over to the dome, just as they would with a conventional house. And real quick, since Aaron, you did mention the color coding and stuff, all those components that Aaron had of that picture earlier are all, if you buy our kits, they're all pre-built for you. So the color coding helps assemble it, but it's all pre-cut. You don't have to try to figure out any of the angles with a triangle, exterior plywood or anything. It's just, you just put it together like a giant erector set. So the dome is probably the easiest part of the whole project to put up because it's real quick and easy and it's all done for you. So
Yeah.
anyway, okay. I
All
think
right.
at those three parts of that, I believe.
Yep, that is, I think we got them all.
Okay.
If to Terry and Viva, if you're listening and we didn't answer them, put your follow up or add something in the chat and we'll get to it. here in a moment. So the next question comes from John Mark in looks like Montana. And the question is, will the hub connectors rust? So the natural spaces domes come with hub connectors that connect those triangle pieces. Will those rust?
You want to grab that one, Aaron?
Yeah. Because we use a epoxy coated hub system, sorry, epoxy coated sleeves, and the hubs are made out of aluminum. Neither of those will rust. Now there are some. I'm just gonna pull up here. There are some exceptions for being seaside. You can see our hardware here. Salt and various chemicals over time, even with aluminum, may cause some pitting to it. So we do anodized hubs. Those are the red ones here you see on the left, and those prevent that. And then also for the hardware that goes into the sleeves, you can see here how like these are the bolts that go into these sleeves. You want to go with stainless steel for those. So we have those options, stainless steel as well for these pins here, which is how you attach the sleeves to the hub. So no, pretty safe when it comes to corrosion resistance and rust and stuff. But yeah, if you're in high concentrations of it, then we do have options for that as well.
Yeah, typically our standard application works everywhere except for like a marine environment. When you're real close to the coast, you just got a lot of salt air, so that's why you can beef up the protection a little bit to stainless steel and anodized aluminum. So yeah. Yeah, I have yet to see any damage on any like remodel projects, domes that have been around for many decades. You open them up and the stuff looks like you would imagine it to be almost brand new. So, yep. So that works great.
All
Okay,
right.
that was a quick one.
Thank you. So the next question comes from Mike in Texas, who says, I have a 3-opening, low-profile 30-foot connector system. How many connectors do I need to increase it to a mid-profile 40-foot dome system?
Are you on, Mike? And if so, are you able to talk? Because this one I might ask you a couple questions about. I do have the numbers for all scenarios, so I'll jump into it. But if you're on and want to jump in, I can kind of clarify a couple things from you. But so a low profile 30-foot dome connector system is the same as saying it's a 3-frequency low profile, at least according to the size of the domes we provide. And then the 40-foot mid profile could also be a 40-foot high profile, which is also a 3-frequency. And the reason I ask that because a 40-foot, and you can do a mid profile on any size, but if you did a 40-foot mid profile, it's just a lot of extra hardware because now you go from a 3-frequency to a 4-frequency dome, just more triangles. But so I got some totals here. So for the low profile dome that you currently have with 3 openings, you should have 43 hubs, 228 sleeves. If you went to the 40-foot as a high profile, so it'd still be a 3-frequency, you would need 58 hubs total, 318 sleeves. And if you went with a 40-foot mid-profile dome, you need 88 hubs and 493 sleeves. So you can see there's a pretty good jump up when you go to a 4-frequency, as that subdivides the original icosahedron into more triangles. So it just requires more connectors and more hubs. So yeah, so if you just were going to go to a high profile, and keep in mind, if you went from a 30-foot low profile to a 40-foot low profile, it's the same amount of connectors. Just because it gets bigger, it doesn't automatically mean you need more connectors. You can go from a 30-foot to a 40-foot with the same amount of pieces, just each piece gets a little larger. And then the way we do it is once you get beyond 40-foot, we usually subdivide it again into a 4-frequency to make smaller triangles. The goal to keep the triangle, the pieces manageable, and also not require any internal framing within the triangle itself, so that you don't have more thermal bridging happening, and you can just put one nice big piece of insulation inside that triangle and makes it real efficient that way. So, but if you're there and I missed your question, feel free to jump in. But in other words, hopefully those numbers help you out with that. So
the picture I put up on the screen here kind of is a good illustration of the difference between a low profile and a high profile. These aren't the same size domes, I don't think, but they're both three frequency. So you can see how when you have the high profile, you have this entire extra row of triangles that you have, versus the low profile that kind of starts to slope in right there. This one kind of goes even out a little bit before going back in. So yeah, that's the difference in the number of hubs and connectors that you would need to go to a high profile. Is you have to have all those new triangles, which isn't huge, but it's a good amount.
Yep, yep. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, the next question comes from Ronald, and he is asking, when considering multi-dome connected structures, say 3, for example, with one large center and 2 smaller domes on each side, is there an optimal frequency, and is there a particular diameter ratio to optimize the connections? For example, one 45 diameter in the center attached to 2 30-foot diameters on each side. Is there an optimal setup?
Uh, yeah, there is. So if you can get the openings of similar sizes, it allows you to kind of create like a connecting link in between the domes where they match up a little bit better. Or if you want to bump the domes up to each other, if the openings that you want to create to go from one dome to the next are kind of similar sizes and they help brace each other on those corners. So Dennis actually made a list for us of good sizes that work well together. So, and they're often, like I was saying before, if you get a larger dome, you sometimes increase the frequency. So even though it's a larger dome, you get more triangles, more riser walls. So sometimes the extension openings may be the same as a smaller dome that has fewer walls as you create the openings. So for some combinations, he's got a 46 diameter, which would be a 4 frequency, and a 36-foot diameter would mesh well together. He's got a 51-foot diameter and a 40-foot diameter, a 49 and a 38, a 44 and a 33, and a 60 works with a 49 or a 36. So there are several combinations, but in the perfect situation, if you can have the openings be very close to the same size, and it makes it easier to do. So those are the kind of list Dennis provided for us. So you can definitely do it, and those would be his recommended sizes. I'll go through it just one more quick time, but 46 and a 36, 51 and a 40, 49 and a 38, 44 and a 33. And then when you go all the way up to a 60-foot diameter, it also works with 49-foot or 36-foot. And of course, any of the same size domes could be linked together. If you did like, we had that one customer, I don't know if you got that picture handy or not, Aaron, but there's that 3 49-foot domes together. That's also kind of a neat thing. But if they're the same size, and of course, the openings are the same, they connect real well. But yeah, absolutely possible. And there's a lot of 2 and 3 and more dome projects out there. So
I think that was the Sun Dome, right?
No, the one I was thinking of is I don't, it might be even like Pittsburgh or something, but it's 3 49-footers. There's a swimming pool in one of them. So
Uh,
yeah.
all
Yeah,
right.
if you don't have it, it's probably not worth trying to find, but yeah, you can have multiple domes together, no problem. Here's one where there are 2 different sizes. They're not really trying to line up the domes perfectly, where the openings would match. So this is a 49-foot dome that we're kind of inside of right now. And you can kind of see in the background behind it, there's a 36-foot garage dome. And that dome, the opening is facing towards the truck just to provide the opening for the dome. And then there would just be a small, person door going from this dome to the other one. And you can see the connecting link has an interesting curved wall. And so you can connect any sizes to each other through a connecting link. They don't have to match up. But that list Dennis made would be the ones that would match up real easily, where the domes could just be touching each other, even just connected like that. So,
Yep.
yeah. All right.
I did put a link in the chat to one that's probably not necessarily the best example, but visually it's a great example of this. In Texas, it's a three connected domes, all three are different sizes. And it's sort of an extreme example. It's a Texas-sized dome complex, but it's a really good example of kind of the things that they're talking about. You can kind of sky's almost the limit in some respects.
Just share that for a second here. This is one that I was thinking of.
And then
And
this one, the connecting links can make the domes any size you want. So this has I believe there are two 30-foot domes and a 40-foot dome in the middle. So in this case, you don't need the dome sizes to match up necessarily because the domes have these connections that bridge between them. But yeah, I think where Dennis was showing those size domes were more for if you didn't want to have a connecting link. But yeah, that's a really cool house. Lots of cool photos on that one if you guys haven't seen it on our website. So you have to
Yeah,
check it out.
it's a fun one just to look at.
yeah,
Yeah.
All right. Great question. And I do have a note, Ronald, to get all that written down and emailed to you at a later date. So we'll take care of that. Okay, the next question comes from David in Massachusetts and wants to know how inflation has affected our kit prices.
You want to grab that one, Aaron?
sure. I mean, it's not a very complicated answer. We don't look at inflation and adjust our prices like as per whatever people say the rate of inflation is. We try to keep things as affordable as we can for people. So we really raise them based on what our costs are. Not all of our costs go up the same with inflation as other things. Just because it's tough to find, a car part or something because of supply chain doesn't mean necessarily that a 2x4 is more expensive, right? So we just do it as we need to based on our costs.
Yep. Yep. That's the easiest way to answer that one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, much better than the COVID days of wood prices.
Yeah.
There was
That
some
did.
scary price increases during COVID.
Yep.
Okay, and our next question comes from Tina in Canada and wants to know, are there any disadvantages to milling your own wood to use for the build? And do you know if anyone has finished the interior walls with lime plaster?
Um, it depends. So part of it is the interior walls. If you wanted to mill your own wood for like the interior panels, because we have those made out of wood, um, then there's no problem with that at all. If you're using it for structural components, then, it really depends on your building department because wood will come with a rating when you buy wood that will give it a certain rating for what it's able to span. You've heard of we use this select structural southern yellow pine, which is a very strong wood, the fiber density is very high. So it really just depends on if the building department says, hey, you decided to use eucalyptus or something, and that doesn't meet the minimum criteria for what this dome requires, then they would not accept it. So it depends on what kind of wood you have, what quality the wood is. So yeah, you can do it because essentially you could mill the same wood we're providing as well. You just have to have the wood that would meet the criteria, and the building department may still reject it because technically, since you're doing it yourself, it's not coming with a grade stamp on it that says it meets this minimum specification. So that would be kind of really where the problem might be if you're running into it. As far as the interior panels and the wood for those things, you could definitely use any wood for that. It's not structural, it's just decorative. So any wood you think looks cool, or if you have it on the property, you can use it for any non-structural components.
Jeff did say that they would be using the wood for structural purposes and that they don't have to go through a building department where they're planning on building. So
Yeah, yeah. So, if you have, if you know the kind of wood, and, we like to see it kiln dried because, a lot of the struts will be cut to a pretty precise length. We want all this to fit together geometrically perfect when it's done. So if you can kiln dry your wood, it kind of helps stabilize a little bit from shrinking or anything. And then it's just really starting to understand what kind of wood you have and how to properly grade it so you can make sure you're giving yourself the quality wood that you want or need. So, typically Dennis, we use select structural southern yellow pine, and then he often says Doug fir, like #1, is also something that he would say would work. So I'm sure there's other woods that would be strong enough. It's just more kind of researching what you have available to you, and can you cut it to the right dimensions? Can you kiln dry it? Can you all these things? And if you can do all those things, then absolutely, absolutely. So, and if you don't have to worry about the building department, then that eliminates that as a variable that might be beyond your control. So,
Says they
yeah.
have a lot of Doug fir at hand. So
Yep, that's good then. Yeah. So really you just kind of want to then research and see how do they what makes Doug fir #1 different than Doug fir #2? Is it the amount of knots, the size of the knots, how much bark is on it? There's all these things that then you can kind of look into to be like, I can get plenty of the good stuff and make it work. So yeah, yeah. Very good. And, we actually didn't have a whole lot of questions, but we do have a lot of Dome customers on board. So I think, unless you had anything to add to that, Aaron, that might have been our last official one. But I was going to say, I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of open up the floor to anybody and everybody here. We got some current customers that may have some questions or just people in general. We got the chat kind of going, but if anybody wants to jump in, it seems like we have a hard time getting through all the questions on a normal Dome talk. So this is a rare opportunity to kind of open the floor up to anybody who has any questions or comments or anything they'd like to add or ask.
did you get to the plaster question? I was
Oh,
making a
no,
note.
that was the second half of that one. So now when you say interior walls, if you mean like, so in a dome, typically you'll have the dome shell. And then within the dome, you have like a second floor, bathrooms, bedrooms, all partitioned off with, I'll call them like conventional walls. You can absolutely use plaster and lath on all those conventional walls, if that's what you mean by the interior walls. You can use any material that you can use in a current home. But if you're talking the triangle panels, you can't use plaster and lath because it can't span it. So you would have to put some framing in there to support it. And I think plaster and lath might even be 16 inches on center. So you'd have to put 16-inch on center framing in the triangles. But if you're just talking like a vertical wall, like your bathroom walls, and you want to use plaster and lath, you can. I mean, most people use drywall because it's so much easier and less expensive, but it's not that you couldn't. So if you had a reason to do it.
Yeah.
So.
We do have a picture of a dome that has. I've been trying to find that picture. As I had it just before Dome Talk, and it's a dome that has plaster on the inside. Just a second here. That's somewhere. Well, if I find it, I'll let you guys know, and I'll show you because it actually looks pretty cool. It's actually a pretty cool dome. So hopefully I can find it for you so you guys can see. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries, no
Oh,
worries. Too
yeah.
many photos sometimes when you're trying to find one. So
All right.
We'll buy
yeah.
Aaron some time. Does anyone have questions that they'd like to ask while you have the experts in the room? Okay, we've got, oh, whoa, I should ask and you shall receive. We got two came in right away. So how does the construction cost of the construction compare to a typical site-built home? They're just getting started and not sure what to expect. So apples to oranges, I guess. What does that look like?
Yeah. So, and this is a pretty common question because everybody wants, of course, to know what things would cost. And the closest comparison is just any custom home. And what a custom home means is there's like a spec house. Sometimes you see those big developments where there's like 5 house plans or floor plans. Those are usually going to be a little cheaper per square foot than a custom house, which just means, somebody bought a lot on the side of a lake and they want their house built to optimize views of the lake. So this house is built especially for what they want. That's the closest comparison to building a dome. If you do it yourself, domes can sometimes be a little less expensive. Oftentimes how it works if you buy the dome kit is you start out kind of really ahead of like a conventional house, and then you start to slow down on a conventional house. So it ends up being roughly about the same typically as a conventional house. So as far as time for a builder, it's almost the same as a and conventional custom house, I should say.
Eden
So
Prairie? I thought so. I'm looking at all the Eden Prairie stuff I have. I'm sorry, search again.
you wanna,
Oop.
do you need a mute, Aaron?
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
Eden
yeah.
Prairie.
And that one's clay, I think. If you guys are talking about the interior surface in Eden Prairie, I think that one's clay. Um, but that one's pretty cool, yeah. So, and then what was that second one, Carrie?
Okay, so let's see. Where were we? Where we go? Okay, so yep, so we got that one. So the next one is Bruno is building a 6 frequency, 5.5 meter radius dome. Wants to know what's the difference between tiling the triangle separately, and tiling the whole dome from the bottom. And I'm assuming you're meaning the roofing, like something like the roofing.
Yeah, let's see, tiling. Are you on,
Bruno?
Bruno? Are you able to kind of elaborate
Yes.
on that a little bit? I'm not sure
Hi guys,
exactly.
what's up? Can you hear me?
We
I can,
can.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for the meeting. It's amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
what I have seen in a lot of like images of dome building around is like the at the time of the roofing, they do the tiling of the triangles separately.
Mhm.
And back home here in Uruguay, I have seen it many times that they make it just from the bottom and they fold the tiles on the vertices.
Yep, yep. So the disadvantage to that is that you can do it that way. There's two disadvantages. One might just be considered more how the look of it, I guess. The other one is, so if you see them when they do the individual triangles, so they do like a point up triangle here and then another point up next to it. And then the point down would overlap those. And you kind of always create this nice overlap on all those edges. So that as the water comes down your roof, it kind of runs off of the one triangle onto the next. You almost treat each triangle like a little mini roof or something. And it just gives it a very strong um, barrier on those edges, I guess, for repelling water. Where if you just wrap the house and then do the next row and do the next row around as you go, because of the curvature of the dome, you start the shingles, especially when you get towards the top, they start spreading a little bit more and you can overlap them. You can do stuff and make it work. And some people do it successfully and don't have leaks. We don't recommend it that way. We also think it looks a little not as nice, I guess, as when you got the triangles cut. But that's the main reason. We feel it's a more robust, guaranteed way to make sure that your roof is gonna, repel water and function how it's supposed to. I mean, if that helps, I hope I was what you're asking me about is why
Yeah,
we.
that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. You're welcome. Thanks. So.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen, wanting to know if we've made any updates to the dome construction manual. He had bought one a few years ago, but any new information in the manual?
Well, it's something we're actually trying to work on right now. So the construction manual really, could use an update every few years as new building products are available and building technologies evolve. It is due for an update, but the one you had from probably a few years ago would be the same as the current one right now. But hopefully in a few months, we're going to have a lot of updates made. So that would be something where if you bought a construction manual, maybe send us an email. And when we get the updated one, we can send you a digital version with some of the updates in place because we're hoping to finally kind of be able to pencil in some time for that. It's been a real busy few years, so we have not updated as much as we would like to have done. So.
On the heels of that question, once you confirm your preliminary floor plans, what's an estimated time frame to receive the final drafts? David is asking the question.
So once the preliminaries seem to take a little while because there's back and forth with the customer and things will change and sometimes it might even require a complete redraw of the plan. Plans have been our bottleneck at the company once COVID started, so we're getting on top of them now, so we're doing a little bit better as far as time frames. But once the preliminaries are all sorted, then the construction drawings I would say, and it kind of really varies, but I would say right now, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the complexity of the project and kind of what the queue looks like at the time. Um, Sometimes it does take longer, and there have been a few projects that have taken longer than 4 to 6 weeks, but that's where we're kind of hoping it is now. We did have a CAD drafter join the company about 4 months ago, and he's really been helping us kind of get caught up and on top of our plans. We just kind of hit a high demand with COVID, and business really took off, and plans are just one of the things that we didn't have a lot of people in place that could jump in and help out with that. So Dennis kind of was doing double duty on plans and still falling behind, but we're getting caught up slowly now. So 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully, is my best estimate at the moment. So, and then did you find those Dome pictures, Aaron?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is, as you're saying, if it could be clay or something else. So
Yeah, some
them right
form of
here.
play, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, right. So definitely not the classic wood paneling look. Has like a interesting texture to it, and
Yeah.
it looks really good.
And usually the problem you deal with on the exterior triangles with like drywall, and you'll see it too in conventional houses with cathedral ceilings. Whenever you have angles like that in your ceiling, as the sun heats up the roof and the wood expands and contracts, it creates these little tiny cracks along the joint line. So usually you'll get like a little tiny crack, just like a hairline crack, but it's still noticeable. So when they did this dome with the clay, I don't know if the clay's just got a little more flexibility to it and it was a little more forgiving. But when I was in this, I was actually in this dome a couple times, and when I was in there, I didn't notice cracking in the clay. So it must be, but I'm also not very familiar with the clay, so I don't know the pros and cons of it. Um, but yeah, it looks real nice.
Yeah.
This is just a cool dome in general.
Yeah.
Uh, this is a double dome in Edina, Minnesota, and it's a vacation rental. And it's been around for a long time. You can see the curved windows in this particular one, or this curved skylights on the left. If you look at the triangles, they got some curvature. So those are remnants of the old days, probably in the 80s, somewhere in that time frame, I would guess. They came before the 80s, but I think the 80s is when they might have phased out. So yeah, this one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right.
That
And then,
is our last question. So I think
are we actually going to get this? Well, it's not even, it hasn't even been an hour yet. This is
I
like a
know this we
right
might set a record.
there. So, all right, all right. Any other questions? This is a rarity, rarity. Usually we go like an hour and a half and we were struggling to get through them all. So, any of you that joined us, I'm sure you've seen that. So this is a good chance if you got anything. And if not, I think it will be a record-setting early dome talk here.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So I will fill just a few minutes, in case people are trying to furiously type.
yeah.
Just to shout out that Dome School is, I believe it's the 7th, 8th, and 9th or thereabouts of June. It's that second weekend in June. So 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you get personal time with the Dome experts to talk about your ideas and your plans and answer your questions. Lots of good food, and you also learn all about building using the Dome system at natural spaces. So good time had by all. And hopefully it won't be too hot this year. It's been pretty nice. The last couple years we've been spoiled. So, sign up and come see us if you want to learn more about that.
And we do have several people that are going to send their contractors here too. So it's not a bad idea, even if you yourself aren't planning on building the dome. The contractors sometimes can benefit from coming. I think maybe the best thing the contractor walks away from is confidence that even though maybe they've never built a dome, that it's actually pretty easy with the kit. And sometimes that affects people's bids. So, so sometimes, getting the contractor confident and seeing that it's not that hard of a project is always maybe worth the investment too for them to come to dome school. But I think we got a few coming this year without the actual dome home owners coming, which is usually they accompany them. But but yeah, great. It's good time, good time. And then you
Yeah.
never know, like Aaron, he's working with us full time now, so you never know what might come out of dome school.
That's
So
right.
yeah. Do you got any cool pictures, Aaron, you could think of we could talk about for a couple minutes that might be interesting as we're stalling for time to see if anybody's brave enough to ask another question here. I shouldn't say brave enough, but I know most people are just kind of chilling and watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Lots of listeners.
Let's see what we got here. We got
yeah.
uh,
You know what'd be fun is there's that well I can't find it as quick, but there's that Star Dome. That one we had a customer that won $100,000 award or grant from VRBO to build a special unique dome. And they built a really cool dome that kind of is the theme is like stargazing. So it's two domes. One's just a clear kind of bubble dome, and that one looks out. Here we go. And that one looks out to the stars with the telescope. And then the other one is one of our domes sitting on top of some tall riser walls. And yeah, they just kind of did a stargazing theme, made it kind of fun. It's a small dome. You can kind of tell by that kitchen right there, 20 foot in diameter, I believe. So, but she had $100,000 budget to build the platform because it kind of comes out over a hill, both domes, the connecting link between them, the decks, everything. So kind of a cool project. Here's a little here's the dome ceiling with a projector on it, projecting, different nighttime skies. You got some nebula in one and just a galaxy in the other. So kind of a fun little project. So we got a lot of cool pictures. That's another thing we're hoping to do is besides the construction manual updating, we're also working on doing some website updates. And we're hoping to get, we got a lot more dome tour videos and some more photos. So hopefully we can get some of this stuff uploaded for anybody that'd like to look at it. So
And must be are these Ranky shakes that they put on?
yeah, so those are the Ranky shakes. And kind of back to that one earlier question about the dome, how to roof the dome on those Ranky shakes too. You can see they cut them on the triangles. Some people wrap the Rankies all the way around too, but this is a 2 frequency dome, so that the corners are a little sharper, I guess, than on like a 3 or 4 frequency. The higher the frequency, the smoother the dome becomes. And the smoother and larger it is, the easier it is just to wrap it if that's what you wanted to do. But in this case, it's really hard to do. So they cut them, and normally you cut them even on the larger ones, but they didn't have much of a choice on that one. So
Yeah, I'll put the
yeah.
link to the rental if anybody wants to. It's probably booked up for the upcoming eclipse, so it's probably a really nice place
Oh,
to go visit it or see it, I mean.
yeah. I don't know if they're in the path of the eclipse, but that'd be pretty amazing. All right. Well, if
Okay,
there's
well,
no
we have,
more,
we got,
oh,
hold on.
okay.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Kevin's asking, what is the estimated time frame from I want a dome through completion with the kit on the site?
So a pretty quick customer turnaround. We have a customer that started maybe, let's see, 3 or 4 months ago, and their dome will probably be built 3 or 4 months from now. So, you can do it in less than a year if you really kind of have all your ducks in a row. But I would say the average person is probably a year to 2 years, but it can be done in less than a year. Most people just aren't in that big of a hurry. They kind of get their plans going. They work with some contractors, they get their building permits. So they might kind of do that throughout one year and then get everything ready for spring in the following year. And then when spring comes, everybody's lined up and then they build their dome. Depends on where you live, of course, too. Like that would be more for people that are in seasonal areas where you get, winters that, you can still build during, but it costs more. So they usually wait till summer. But if you're somewhere like California where you build year round, less than a year is possible. The planning stage takes a while to get all the plans done and get through the building departments and stuff. But then typically once that's all done, we can have a kit shipped out 8 weeks after you give us a contract for whatever dome you want, including all the triangle skylights and roofing and Marvin windows and whatever else we include. So yeah, that's it. It just depends on how aggressive you are and how organized you are and how complicated your project is and all those kind of questions, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next question is there a limitation or special consideration with regards to placement of fireplaces in multi-dome structures?
In multi-dome, well, I mean, the center of the dome is ideal for heating with a fireplace. But in a multi-dome structure, yeah, it just depends on where the other domes connect. And if you wanted to kind of have some shared view from both domes of the fireplace, aesthetically, you can put wherever the need is at. I mean, the chimney likes, the building department likes to see the chimney up 2 feet above the roof. So sometimes if it's in the middle of the dome, it just goes out the top and it's just 2 feet above the top. It looks real nice. Sometimes if you have it at a certain part, depending on the building department, you got to kind of have a tall chimney once you get outside of the dome. So there is some considerations with that, but I would say that if all things were created equal, the center of the dome is probably ideal, or close to the center like 25% of the dome or something. So you guys
All
think
right.
jump in there with that on Aaron? I mean, that's kind of what they did in Bear Creek, and that works really well. Looks good and works well. So
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people have it goes in the middle well because a common configuration is to have sort of a dome room, which is a large section of the dome where you can be at the bottom, you can see all the way to the top, and then other half will start to segregate for bedrooms and bathrooms and things, and that's where you can start thinking of, well, that's maybe a good place to put a fireplace because you're already kind of building a wall there between sort of the halves of the dome. And then also, I mean, if you're really just going for heat, you could do something like we do here, where we have a large boiler that's outside, and you burn wood and have radiant floor heating or through the hot water it produces. So if you want to heat a whole bunch of domes from one fire, if that's what you're going for, then yeah, wood fire boiler is an option.
that's true, and that's what we do here. It heats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 domes heated off the one boiler. So yeah, no. Yeah, what
All
is it,
right.
10,000? I think Dennis, one time I saw it was like 10,000 square feet or over 10,000 square feet is heated by that one boiler. So not bad, not bad.
All right. The last chat question. So if your budget's about $100,000, um, like what kind of square footage? So the question's specific to the 20-foot dome that's in the stargazing dome. Like what's the square footage on something like a 20-foot dome?
I think a 20-foot dome is, I want to say it might be 300 square feet, 250 to 300. I think a 18-foot dome is 250. So and that one had 2 floors. The upper, so it'd have been like probably 300 on the main floor. The upper loft was maybe 200. So it might have been like a 500 square foot dome. And then that other dome they had, I think it was a little bit smaller. So that might have been like a 200 square foot. So on that particular project, it might have been a total of 700 square feet for $100,000 roughly, something like that. And there's so many variables with that because you could build a 700 square foot dome for 200,000. Really, if you depend on where you're at and what you're trying to do with it. So it can really vary tremendously. But I think that was what they had for a budget on that was $100,000 even. I could be wrong. It might have been 125, but I think it was 100.
So was that their
And
total budget, or was that the award that Airbnb had given them?
no, that was the award, but I think they wanted to keep that budget around there. So I don't know what they paid their contractors. Um, I mean, I don't know if that was a total or if that was just total for materials by the time they bought everything and then all the labor was extra and maybe it was 150 or 200,000. I guess maybe I should ask if we could get more numbers from her, but if you built like we sell a mini dome package, for instance, and I don't know if you got a good picture of that, but if you wanted to build a dome for under $100,000 and you're willing to do some of the work yourself, I think a mini dome is pretty possible. And of course, that would be under the assumption you already have land because you could spend $500,000 just on a piece of land. So if you had property already, um, but for instance, I had a guy who built a mini dome in Arizona, and I want to say he paid something ridiculous to drill the well. I think it
It's
was
like
like,
50,000 I thought
oh,
it
it's
was, or
something,
it was something terrible.
yeah. And to hook up the power was really high, so it probably cost him 100,000 just to get a well,
Utilities.
septic,
Yeah.
and power hooked up. So with all those variables aside, though, if just to build this structure, not including, the property and everything else, you could build this for $100,000 pretty easily if you did a good amount of the work yourself. Definitely materials for this would be under $100,000. So this is something you could build for 100,000 or less, or something similar size to this one. So yeah. And again, if you hired it out, I mean, it just depends on your contractors.
And the mini dome size, like square footage is I think I saw 400 square
It-
feet.
It's at
Yeah, I
five.
think it's like,
I think it's like because there is the upper loft
Yeah.
that has like the bed area and other things.
yeah, I think you get close to 600 total,
600.
trying to get the
Yeah.
loft. Yeah, it's like 425 or something on the main floor, I think, and then the loft's close to like 150 or something like that, 125. So yeah, probably between 550 and 600, somewhere in there. Um, Actually, do you have that square footage calculator, Aaron, handy? It might
Uh,
be, or did you already put it on maybe? I was gonna say, that's a good thing to show too. We do
yeah.
have on our website a square footage calculator that's kind of a generic ballpark tool, and where you just kind of put in the square footage, the quality you want to put in, do you want granite tops, you want linoleum floors, carpet, what are you going for? And it'll kind of help get you a good ballpark number. And so here's some pricing. So yeah, just throwing like, yeah, there you go. That'll work, 500. It's like a smaller project. So they're kind of showing different quality levels, and if you're doing it all yourself versus getting a contractor. So you can kind of see, like in the case of the mini dome, an owner built, according to this chart, is 50 to 62,500. If you did everything yourself, you could probably do it for that. If you started hiring out electrical and plumbing and HVAC and different things, you'd probably start getting closer to the 60 to 80,000. And the licensed contractor means basically you hire a licensed contractor to do everything for you, including manage your subcontractors. So that's for the people that are kind of hands off. And they just work with that one individual and that person does everything for them. So it goes to show you could spend, in this particular example, from 50 doing everything yourself and keeping it low on the lower end all the way up to 100, 125, for instance, on quality C. So there's a big range there. And, where are you building to is the other part of it. So, but this is a good tool to at least get kind of a rough idea. If you had a budget of $300,000, for instance, and you put in a 5,000 square foot house or whatever, just as an extreme example, you may be like, boy, there's no way we're probably gonna be able to build this house in today's dollars with $300,000 budget when the low end is 500,000 and I want to do it all myself. So it just kind of helps you, kind of dial in a little bit roughly, just kind of helps out. So
Yeah, and this is a pretty long page. I know there's a lot to read, but it's all very good information for helping you define what levels of quality that you're actually going for and things that are included and aren't included in this calculator. So this number is very helpful, but really you don't have any definition for this unless you read the rest of the page too, and like know what is a lower floor and basement and how is that going to affect your costs, right? And kitchens can be wildly different in how you appoint them. So that's all the things that go into the cost.
yeah, right, right. Okay, okay. Well, do we get any other people pop in, Carrie?
No, no, we're good. I'm just answering one last follow-up on the mini dome, and then I think that was the last question. So we made it almost to 7 o'clock.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for everybody throwing a couple of questions in there to help us fill it out. Um, yeah, well, good. This was a pretty laid back dome talk. Sometimes we get so many questions, we're like, boy, how are we gonna get through all these? And then this was a rare time where it wasn't too bad. So I'm glad we got to answer just some random Well, not random, but just some questions at the end from anybody who wanted to ask. So,
Well,
all
thank you
right,
everyone for joining us tonight. Please visit our website for anything, other questions you might have, or come back to see us next month on April 30th. And let us know what other questions you may have. Send that in next time we send out the email.
right. And we still got room at Dome School if anybody's kind of him and hawing about it. We got some space still. So, all right, guys. Well, have a good night, everybody. It was good to see you guys. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks.